Good morning. Opening words for you this morning are from author Jane Roberts. She says, "You must begin to trust yourself. If you do not, then you will forever be looking to others to prove your own merit to you, and you will never be satisfied. You will always be asking others what to do, and at the same time resenting those from whom you seek such aid." And now we will light our chalice with Reverend Jacqueline Luck.
Before we do that, I thought I'd make this announcement because we've had a couple more folks come in, and that's thrilling. These note cards are on the table when you come in the foyer. If you just fill them out, it will put you on the email list, and that would be great. We're thrilled you're here with us, always. And so it is our tradition to light the chalice, to begin our services, and we sing these words that are printed in the order of your service. have a card. She gives thanks for our community. Thank you for all of your support and contribution for Tandy's trip. May you be blessed. That's what this is Tandy and her family. We're so thankful that you're here with us this morning and we had such an opportunity to help. It's a blessing. A sorrow for our neighbors in Mississippi, so devastated by the tornado. Indeed. Alan writes, I'm unhappy about the electioneering that went on in our church last week. That it's all, then we'll light. Will you have some? We'll light a candle for those sorrows that have remained within our hearts and for the joys that make us smile.
So my first reading for you this morning, so we have some of these readings that we have in the back of our hymnal that I sometimes refer to, but haven't as of late. So I thought I'd share with you one from Lausser. If there is to be peace. If there is to be peace in the world, there must be peace in the nations. If there is to be peace in the nations, there must be peace in the cities. If there is to be peace in the cities, there must be peace between neighbors. If there is to be peace between neighbors, there must be peace in the home. If there is to be peace in the home, there must be peace in the heart. And now for our next hymn, number 315, This Old World.
Oh,
second reading for you today is number 492, and it's from Carolyn Owen Towell. See a blossom in your mind's eye. Allow it to fill the interior of your imagination. Greater perfection of form and nature cannot be imagined. With inward gaze, absorb each wondrous fluted petal. Slide down its humid surface until you drop as the dew into its velvety core. Immerse your senses in this safe chamber. Such fragile beauty gives impulse to weep. Slowly reverse the journey. As you ascend the shaft toward wider light, turn your imagination around and around to see its many facets, stored within the memory of all flowers. Marvel that this creation, while utterly fragile yet undaunted, boldly buds forth, turning resolutely toward the sun. We too shimmer with expectation, exuding our own illumination, color, pulse, and scent. Vulnerable still, we venture our lives courageously toward hope and light, at once fragile and rooted. So trust, it means so much at once. Surrender to what is not known, hope, ability to trust oneself, possibly faith in another, and faith in the universe, and God that all will be all right. As trust is a verb, it is also a process. So I wanted to explore some different facets of trust this morning. We all have different experiences of trust, and I don't believe there is a one way of how to get to the experience of trust for everyone. We all have different lived lives and hence experiences that inform just about everything in our lives, including trust. And there are concepts of trust along with other ideas that come into how we live spiritual lives. Like many Unitarian Universalists, I was raised in a tradition that didn't resonate with me as an adult. I have a lot of affinity for the traditions my parents raised me in, but that path wasn't for me. One of the traditions revolved around positive thought and positive thinking. For those who may have read the book The Secret, you might get the idea. A book that writes in how one can positively think their lives through all the suffering and obstacles of this life. Maybe this path worked for some, it just didn't seem to work for me. So I wanted to find what a faith might look like and feel like that I trusted more fully. When I was 18 years of age, I also discovered Buddhism, as well as Unitarian Universalism. The teachings of suffering in Buddhism really resonated with me at that time. Yes, there is love and light and beauty and hence hope in this life, but ignoring the suffering of ourselves and the world will likely result in that suffering lingering without analyzing the causes of that suffering. Until we not only see the suffering of our own lives, but how our interconnected lives are part of a wider collective suffering, it can be an ongoing struggle to feel what we all want: peace, enlightenment, and freedom from suffering. I had enough faith and trust in my new religious search to go deeper and explore further. What I learned along the way, particularly in seminary, is Christian liberation theology. That is, Jesus fought for the oppressed, the marginalized, the forgotten, the ill, and his death was not in vain. Trust can be given that transcends this life in the undying love for all of humanity to guide them through their suffering in this mortal life. Jesus has so many traits that had people trust in him. Or maybe it's in the transcendent poetic words of Emerson or the Buddha for others. And then you find those in this mortal life that connect in similar ways. Maybe we find trust in community, working to build the beloved community that we so cherish. What Buddhist thought and Unitarian Universalist thought share is the belief and ideals of interconnectedness, as our Unitarian Universalist seventh principle highlights. That principle states respect for the interdependent web of all of existence of which we are a part. Reflecting on our own Unitarian Universalist theology, we can also reflect on the words of Martin Luther King Jr. from his letter from a Birmingham jail. He says, in a real sense, all life is interrelated. All humans are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be, and you can never be what you ought to be until I am what I ought to be. This is the interrelated structure of reality. So if we believe in the words of Martin Luther King Jr., if we believe the Buddhist view that one's happiness is linked to the happiness and peace of others in an interconnected life, if we believe in our Unitarian Universalist seventh principle of interconnectedness, if we believe in a loving God and not a damning God based on our Universalist heritage, and if we believe we have human agency, whether from a humanist lens or the belief that a higher power touches us and moves through us in order to do good in this world and use our agency for it, as opposed to a predestined view that God has determined our fate, then it is my belief that we have a mandate to offer love, compassion, and fight for equality for the historically marginalized populations that have experienced suffering in this life. And there is a lot of pain and mistrust throughout the world right now. If we believe all of this, then we must believe that when we must work to help, we must work and help to alleviate the suffering of this world, that we work to build beloved community together, that we work to find a path for peace, freedom, and universal love through each other. There are so many different perspectives in this life on what part of the world we are born into, what families we're born into, what education we have access to, and what physical bodies we were born into, from an infinite amount of starting points in this interconnected world. Someone living in a country torn by war and trauma cannot positively think their way through war, the loss of life, extreme poverty, and so on. Different people have different conditions within each society that has each unique person responding differently to similar conditions. They need others along the way with their own wisdom to guide them through the hells they find themselves in, often a view of a higher power that interweaves in humanity to guide each other. Widespread suffering exists because of power differentials, and is arguably the most powerful nation in the world. There are widespread ramifications for this privilege. There are the producers of privilege or the receiver of experience and ramifications of this privilege. Another way of talking about trust is to reflect on who used power to abuse trust in your life, or how did you use your power to maybe even unintentionally lose the trust of another. What traumas and histories do we have that have a healthy relation to the notion of trust or not in others. And on that same note, how do we trust in a wider universe that all will be okay? And how do we use our own agency to engage in widening circles of trust? Some choose not to trust others in their past for good reason. But does that possibly block us from forming other bonds of trust that can be beneficial? World-renowned psychiatrist Bessel van der Kolk, and who is author of the New York Times best-selling book, The Body Keeps the Score, says, beneath the surface of the protective parts of trauma survivors, there exists an undamaged essence, a self that is confident, curious, and calm, a self that has been sheltered from destruction by the various protectors that have emerged in their efforts to ensure survival. Once those protectors trust that it is safe to separate, the self will spontaneously emerge and the parts can be enlisted in the healing process. Another quote about trust comes from the Buddha, who stated, health, contentment, and trust are your greatest possessions, and freedom your greatest joy. Buddhism says there are two primary forms of suffering. First, the physical forms of suffering, such as physical pain, which we are limited to directly address. But there is also the suffering of change and conditioning, and how our unhealthy habits of a cycle of suffering prevent us from living a more stable life with a joyous mind. So how do we get there to a greatest joy? If we don't trust, if we aren't content, if we do not have the basics of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, based on psychologist Abraham Maslow, basic needs, safety and love and belonging, help to bring confidence and trust is another aspect of life that can be developed once the basics of safety are addressed. And once confidence in ourselves to navigate our own lives and trusting ourselves, we can then extend outward into the world with self-actualization, another Maslow terminology. Being creative in community, creating safe places for ourselves and hence others, working proactively with the reality of life, not reactive in defensiveness and hurt, and beginning to reach our full potential. We all want peace, we all want joy in our lives, but the suffering of life often has a grip on us. So what if we integrate some Buddhist teachings and van der Kolk's teachings on trauma? For each person, the path to trust will be different. Maybe it's exploring the Buddha's words more. Maybe it is psychotherapy from a therapist who follows van der Kolk's work. Maybe it is exploring more with a group of people and community together. Maybe it is healing relations with people you have harmed if the other person is available and willing to participate in reconciliation. Maybe it is engaging in prayer to help build the will to engage in the work that needs to be done in order to do further healing. Maybe it is sitting in awe of nature and contemplating more on the divinity of nature and what nature has offered over millennia. Maybe it's sitting in awe of God, and maybe it's one big combo. But trust is important. It is important in that it is an idea, a verb that helps us navigate through trauma and doubt and hurt in order to open up to love, to open up to others, to see the interconnectedness of community in our universe. Van der Kolk also says, in our daily relations with others, he says, one thing is certain. Yelling at someone who is already out of control can only lead to further dysregulation. Just as your dog cowers if you shout and wags his tail when you speak in a high sing-song, we humans respond to harsh voices with fear, anger, or shutdown, and to playful tones with opening up and relaxing. We simply cannot help but respond to these indicators of safety and danger, he says. Also, he says, being able to feel safe with other people is probably the most important aspect of mental health. Safe connections are fundamental to meaningful and satisfying lives. How can we explore creating safe and nurturing selves and communities? Trust must be part of that process, but not in the sense of blind trust. Blind trust often doesn't work out well. Inquisitive trust, as in a process, and protecting one's interest and safety can be a gateway in how we can protect others and seek communities with protection from suffering as a priority. Exploring mutual interest in beloved community, compassion, and trust can help us explore how to love more deeply this world and with each other. We can contemplate deeper in how we are all connected, whether in the trauma of a pandemic that hurt so many at multiple levels, or in seeing how we are connected by the brilliant beauty of Earth, or seeing how we are connected through global warming and its suffering, or seeing how we are connected in the need to engage in the world to bring more equality. If we don't trust each other, this doesn't mean trusting everyone, including those who have done harm to us, as trust includes trust in ourselves to know who is the oppressed and who is the oppressor. If we don't trust each other, building beloved community becomes more of a challenge. What hopes and aspirations do you wish for? Trusting and hope for a better life and a better world is what inspires us to engage in this world and protect it and each other. That is one reason why trust is so important. We have the ability to heal, to see what lies beyond the small traumas and the bigger traumas of our lives. This possibility of an undamaged essence, as van der Kolk states, or the Buddha nature, as Buddhists might state, or perfectly one with God, as a Christian might say, or being able to effortlessly live our values, as a humanist might say. It's possible, this undamaged essence, in how we live our lives. Exemplars have pointed the way. And what many, if not all exemplars, have in common is that they have pointed the way by addressing their own traumas, connecting with others who wish to transcend their traumas, and collectively moving forward in a journey of healing. If nothing else, Jesus pointed the way. The Dalai Lama has pointed the way. Martin Luther King Jr. pointed the way. Gandhi pointed the way, and Maya Angelou has pointed the way for us. We can move forward in hope, in possibility, in seeing the interconnectedness of the world. But first, trust must be there in order to do the hard work, to come out the other side of suffering, pain, and trauma. Author Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote the book Eat, Pray, Love, says, the inability to open up to hope is what blocks trust. And blocked trust is the reason for blighted dreams. And Khalil Gibran said, trust in dreams, for in them is hidden the gate of eternity. May we develop trust. May hope continue to be found. And may our dreams of joy and peace come to fruition. May it be so, and amen. is the time for offertory and our offering. Each month or so we pick, or the Social Justice Ministry team picks a cause for half our plate to go towards. And for this last week in March, it is once again Melba's. Melba's is a po' boy shop near Gentilly and the 7th Ward. And I shared a little bit about their history here in the city and what they offer. But they do offer a reading program for adults and children. And it's a compassionate, loving place. The endowment committee and myself went there for a book signing this last Friday, and recommend that you go there if you haven't checked it out. Affordable food, lovely staff, and a wonderful mission of getting books out into our community, and wonderful books at that. So Nicholas and the choir now will lead us in hymn number 314, We Are Children of the Earth. So this is the time where we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish the chalice here that it might glow gently in our hearts. May it light your path as you leave this place. May it guide your way until we are together again. And before we sing our next hymn, I'll just close with the benediction now. These are the words of Oprah Winfrey. I trust in the ebb and flow of the universe. I trust that life's bigger than what I can see. I trust that there is a divine order beyond my control. And I trust that no matter what happens, I will be all right. May it be so, and amen. And now we get to sing Break Not the Circle, hymn 323. And we have coffee in the fellowship hall, and hope everyone can come and gather together. I wish you all a lovely day, and again, please come see Nicholas and I, or go check out the opera today.